I'm Allie, and I'm the manager of training programs at Manhattan Prep. We've been teaching test prep classes online for over 10 years now, and on Zoom for about 2 years. We know you might be teaching online now too, so we made this series to share some of our favorite things that we've learned. Hope you enjoy!
Hi there, I'm Jeff Vollmer, and I'm a GMAT instructor at Manhattan Prep. For the past few years, I've been teaching classes, leading webinars, and working one-on-one with students in Zoom. Today, I'd like to share with you some ways to make your online lessons as effective as your in-person ones. We'll discuss how to check for student understanding, how to differentiate your teaching and incorporate group work, and how to use the board effectively. Let's do it. Now, absorbing information online is harder than it is in person, so you'll want to check for student understanding more frequently. But you also want to check for student understanding differently because it can be harder to read the room online. Ask students to give you feedback more directly. They can gesture into the cameras. They can use the tools in the participants window. For more specific feedback that requires more active student thinking, consider replacing a question like, "Does that make sense?" with something more direct, like, "What are you learning from this problem?" Or "What's your number one takeaway?" And remember, it's okay to have some silent pauses in an online setting. You want to make sure that you're giving students enough time to absorb the lessons, giving them enough time to come up with questions, comments, and concerns. Instead of asking students, "What's your takeaway?" consider asking them to write down their takeaways. Then, after giving them enough time to do so, ask a couple of them to hop on the microphone and share what they wrote down. Get the other students to raise their hands on the camera if they wrote down something similar. And if you notice that someone didn't raise her hand, call her to the microphone and ask her to share what she wrote down if it's something different. This is a really nice way to get students to participate, but in a way that's less stressful than cold calling, because again, you're giving them plenty of time before calling on them to do something. If you want to see what everybody's takeaway is, you've got a couple options. One good option is to share an editable document, like a Google Doc or a Google Sheet, and have students fill in certain components of the document or spreadsheet throughout the class. Another option is to get everyone to type their takeaways but not submit them. Get everyone to type in their takeaways on a certain lesson and then change their chat to public. Send it to everyone. Then tell the class to submit enter and your chat box will flood with takeaways of the students. This is a kind of a cool way to see everybody's takeaways all at once, something that is not possible in person. And it's also a nice way to kind of check and see if any student may be misunderstanding a big point. All right, so one of the things that Zoom allows you to do is gather feedback in different ways. So let's go ahead and showcase a couple of those ways right now. Everyone, go ahead and just give me a thumbs up if you're on board with the lesson so far. Give me a quick thumbs up so I make sure everyone's on board. Awesome, now before we move on, I think what I'd like you to do is give me a quick takeaway. What's the one bullet point you guys want to remember from this lesson so far? Type that into public chat, and then when you've got it in there, send it to everybody. I want to know what you're all taking away from this lesson. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yep, and so you can see on my screen here, we've gotten 4 different takeaways. Go ahead and center this window. 4 different takeaways from the students. The chat box is a really great tool for differentiating your instruction. If you notice that students aren't understanding something, follow up with them in chat, in private chat, while the other students are working on a different activity. You'll find a lot of times that because communication online can be done a lot more discreetly, students who are struggling will be more honest about it. Ask those students to tell you what they definitely do understand, but where the sticking point is. Getting those students to type out what specifically is troubling them is often enough to unlock that aha moment for them. You can also use the chat box to follow up with students who are demonstrating a firmer understanding of the problems and the lessons. Challenge them to explain how the problem and answer would change if you alter one or two little pieces. If you've just done a multiple choice question in class and a student arrived at the correct answer, challenge her to explain why one of the answers is a trap answer. Which wrong answer is the most commonly chosen one, and why? If you gave a free response question, maybe ask a student to explain why a different specific response isn't quite as good as the one she originally gave. So one really nice thing about online teaching is that the chat box allows you to have all of these conversations in one place. The chat box. You don't have to travel the room and have all these private conversations in different physical spaces. And what that means is you can just copy and paste responses that you've sent to other students just 5-10 seconds earlier. So if I'm having students work on a single problem, I can offer feedback individually without me having to walk around the room. I can answer all the questions or give feedback directly in the chat window. So let's go ahead and simulate this. Okay, you've all been working on this problem now for a little bit. If you have an answer choice, please submit it to me in private chat. Yeah, keep the answers to yourself. Don't submit it to everybody. Just give me an answer choice in private chat when you're ready. So I can give feedback to Joe directly. And because I notice that Logan has given the same answer, I can just copy and paste my feedback to him. Now, Whit has given me the correct answer, so I might push her a little bit more since we have a little bit more time. Here's how I might do it. All right, I also noticed that Ryan has given me the correct answer, so I might push him a little bit more. So I'm asking him what he thinks maybe the most common wrong answer selection is and why. So if I have more students who are working, I don't want to allow these students who have already given me an answer choice off the hook. Let's get them to continue thinking if they got it right or if they got it wrong. Depending on how many students are in your class, you might find yourself stretched a bit thin, having multiple conversations in the chat box. So splitting students into breakout rooms is another really good way to differentiate your instruction, and it's really easy to do in Zoom. You have as much flexibility for creating smaller groups as you would in an in-person classroom. Now, just keep in mind that when students are in their breakout rooms, they won't be able to see the documents that you're sharing in the main room. So you want to make sure that the students have gotten those documents ahead of time so they can look at it on their own. You will have the ability to message all the students in breakout rooms or drop in on individual rooms to check out what the students are doing. For more information on how to set up these rooms, go check out Whit's video from earlier in the series. Zoom offers lots of opportunities for effective board work. I typically share a PowerPoint presentation in a single window on my screen, but you could just as easily share Word docs, Google Slides, PDFs, other types of documents. Something to keep in mind is when you're hovering your cursor over your shared document, the students will see your cursor. This can be good and bad. Oftentimes you'll want to use the cursor to draw attention to something you're highlighting, but oftentimes the cursor can be left on the board by accident and distract students. Zoom has a number of annotation tools that allow you to mark up the board. Highlighting, boxing, underlining all work really well. And you can color code your annotations to better draw connections between certain elements. Students also have the ability to annotate the board, so get them to highlight certain areas of problems, solve individual problems in certain sections of the screen, things that you wouldn't be able to do in person very easily. Just keep in mind that the host's annotations show up in real time, but the participant's annotations show up only after the annotating action is complete. All right, so here's a way to incorporate student annotations into the class. What I really like about teaching online is it's maybe more convenient to get students to annotate the board than it is to get students in an in-person class up to the front of the room. So all the students have been working on this problem now, trying to analyze the components of this sentence. And now I'm going to ask individual students to highlight certain aspects of the sentence in different colors. So I'll reach out to Ryan. And I will copy and paste what I sent to Ryan to Joe, except I'll change blue to green and subject to verb. I'll do the same thing for Whit, except I'll change subject to modifiers and blue to orange. And now I've asked Logan to kind of check everyone's work. And this gets everyone involved. And if I had more than 4 students, I could ask, more than just Logan to check other work. One really important note about Zoom annotations, they are not sticky. That means that your annotations are not attached to a specific slide in your presentation or a specific page in your Word document, for example. So if you close out of your shared screen that had annotations on it, the annotations will be gone forever. It also means that if you advance a slide in your PowerPoint presentation or you scroll down the window in your shared Word document, the annotations will transport with you to the new slide or further down the document. So make sure you clear your annotations before advancing your presentation. This can obviously make retrieving past annotations pretty tough. You might be able to click the undo function enough times to repopulate all your annotations, but depending on how far back you have to go, that might be impossible. So another workaround is to save screenshots as you go. The screenshots will save to somewhere on your hard drive. You can then open them back up and share those files with your class. Another option is to annotate in a program other than Zoom. A lot of instructors prefer to share a program such as OneNote with their classes because you can annotate directly in OneNote. And that means the annotations attach to specific pages in the document. The Zoom whiteboard is another potential workaround. If you open the Zoom whiteboard, annotate in it, close the whiteboard, and then reopen it, the original annotations will return. Here's another way to use the board effectively in class. I've got a couple of questions up on the board and I can go ahead and just split the board into different components. And now I can ask individual students to solve individual problems. So, Whit, I'll have you put your work up for the first problem up, okay, or the problem on the left. Go ahead and fill in the space under the left problem. Joe, why don't you take the middle problem? Let's see your solution for that. Ryan, you can take the problem all the way on the right. And then Logan, why don't you check step by step to see if there are any problems or if things are going smoothly. Yeah, great work, guys. Now, to the viewers of the video, one thing to keep in note is if you're not a host, but you are annotating, your annotations won't come up until the annotating action is complete. So you can see that Ryan and Whitney are both hosts here, so their annotations are coming up with each stroke. Joe is not a host, so his lines are coming up all at once. All right, Logan, let's get the stamp tools going on here. A lot of work on here. How are they doing? Looking pretty good. So let me go ahead and show you what happens if you switch slides in Zoom while annotations are still up. All right. The annotations stick to the window, okay, but they don't stick to the specific slides that you've been annotating on Zoom. So if you want to go revisit a slide with annotations, one workaround is to take a screenshot of what you've got. So in your annotation toolbars, you'll see there is a save option. It will save it to a folder in your desktop somewhere, so you can see it again. I can show in Finder where this is. It will now pull open a history of screenshots I've taken in Zoom. I can now open up this document. And now I could share this new document. So you'll see me closing the original PowerPoint stuff. And if I wanted to reshare that problem, I can do it from this saved screenshot I took through the annotation toolbar. And now we could annotate this, right? So I could then go change problems. I could make use of one of my favorite tools, which is the white box, and I could start changing like different coefficients in a problem. I could change the 3 here to something else. You could write on top of stuff. You could solve problems again if you want to review something later in class. A lot of options. So the white box out tool, one of my favorite tools in Zoom. Adapting your teaching for an online classroom is going to take some time. And it's going to be impossible to perfectly reproduce what you did in person in an online setting. But that's okay, right? Because there's just some stuff that you can do better in an online classroom than you could in person. Allow yourself time to learn, stick with it, and you'll be just fine.
If you want to learn more, you can watch the other videos in our series, or check out the description for links to other resources about teaching online. You can also email us if you're looking for more direct assistance with online teaching, and that address is in the description too. Thanks for watching.